Bear with me. I am just making sure that we are all on here because I do all this stuff. Hmm. Okay, there we go. Yep, there I am. And there I am. And here I am. There's got to be a more graceful way to do this. Hi, it is Thursday night. I'm a little late because I had a hot date last night. And this is Conscious Mind Tripping with me, Audrey Newmont. And I want to start by saying why this is called Conscious Mind Tripping. I had a very big deal this past week. I finished the book from my vantage point, and now it is officially in with the editors and being done. And the book is a game version of the work that I do. So it makes it more user friendly to learn new skills, new life hacks, new ways to be that are more intentional, happier in your life. And so my book is going to come out hopefully pretty soon. And this conscious mind tripping, it's like as you're going through life, one of the most important things to do is be conscious about how you do it. And you got to be conscious with your mind, and you got to be conscious with your feelings, conscious in relationship. And so this is all a beautiful grand plan on how to be more aware as you're going through the journey of life. So hence conscious mind tripping. So I am also with my husband, we own Newmont Center for Balanced Living. And I always start out these nights with a announcement or a few. And today there are a few announcements because we got a lot going on. Nick has a workshop coming up on Saturday, and it's going to be an intentional healing with chakra plates making class. And so if you've ever been interested in how to use crystals for healing, that's the class for you. It's really good. And he makes it a lot of fun. And we have some really unique crystals. And he pulled out the ones from his special area behind his desk that is only for, people who are using them very intentionally. So it'll be a lot of neat stuff there. And after that, whoops, so it'll be a lot of neat stuff. I need to see what's going on with comments, and sometimes I see them in there. Oh, Miss Kimberly Wallace Ashburn, I love it when you show up because I love talking with you. At any rate, the next thing that Sherry's on too. Hi, ladies. Nice to have you join me. Both of you, I think, will appreciate what's coming up later tonight. At any rate, the other thing we have coming up on October 12th is Nick teaching numerology. So he has a book on numerology that's just amazing. And that is a full day of the basics from A to Z. And by the time you're done, you'll be able to do a lot of your numerology if you want to do numerology with friends, or, figuring out anything having to do with numerology, which I'm going to get back to something about numerology later. So I'm making a star for myself on my little note page. And then we have, this is the big one, the psychic panel is coming up on October 26th. And I'm telling you, if you have not been with one of those, either online or in person, these psychics that we have are phenomenal. We have Nick, and then we have Mary Elizabeth. She channels we, and Inanna Draper, and Gina Ann. And you guys know I was just talking about Gina Ann last week. They're all phenomenal. So I'm going to be having them coming up on our podcast pretty soon, and highly recommend joining us on that day. Also, Nick is going to be teaching I Ching. I think I Ching is one of those really interesting ones. And when you get into it, it's fascinating. You got this little thing you throw, it's like a dice, and there's all these configurations that come up. It's like a a game style tarot almost. It's very interesting. So he's doing that coming up in, I think, November. And then he and I are planning a master class. So you have to stay tuned at newmontcenter.net on our calendar page. And Nick has joined the evening too. Hi, honey. So let's get to the topics of the day. First thing I want to talk about, Nick and I just celebrated last night 25 years of knowing each other. I don't even know how that happened because, I mean, it just like went through like that. It's just been amazing. We have 25 years together. We have two daughters that we created, and that along with my older daughter, our older daughter, and all these experiences. We were talking about it last night at dinner at our favorite restaurant, Nona. So if you live in the Westlake area and you have never been to Nona, you got to go to Nona. And you have to follow Nona on Instagram because Jacopo is hysterical, and his person that helps him with this social media, Mia Mormino, who's in, I mean, you got to look her up on YouTube. Between the two of them, and there are other people that they work with, their Instagrams are always making me laugh. So check them out. And we just had a fabulous night, and we were talking about how we have made it through all these years. And to be clear, Nick and I aren't just in a marriage together and having these kids together. We also run Newmont Center together. So he's got all his jobs that he does there. I've got all of mine. And it's just a full life. Hey, I can see other people in here that have joined. Hi, all you guys. Nice to have you aboard. This is great to have all of you to talk to. So how do we make it work? I got to tell you, one of the main things that we do is we continue to be in the moment. We continue to really communicate well with each other, and we let things go. So I work with a lot of couples, families, I work with friends, anybody that is in relationships. I have a tendency to be the one that attracts those clients. And I mean, over the period of time, I've had some really interesting stories with relationships. And across the board, when I see people struggling, there's a part of it where they're just getting stuck in the problem. They get stuck in, you did this and I don't like it. And then they can't hear each other. And that is one of the most common across the board things that I run across. And so when you can't be in the relationship together, like for instance, Nick and I, over all these years, I mean, we haven't had like this smooth path the whole time. In 25 years, we've actually had a few moments that for us personally were pretty intense. And then for us as a family, we're in pretty intense. And so when we are working through it and getting on the other side, it really requires a lot of, and I know I say this all the time, but it's super important, a lot of constructive conversation and being able to get your point across without badgering the person, without degrading the person. That is one of the things that will bring up the defense very fast. And so you have to really, when you're in that partnership with, and again, I'm going to bring it back to Nick, the amount of times both of us have used that constructive communication. Like just recently, I was doing something and he pointed it out to me. And there's a part of it where it's like I had to sit with it. I had to look at it and had to be like, all right, so is that actually what I'm doing? And yeah, because in case you haven't noticed, I'm not 100% perfect all the time. None of us are. So when he's able to tell me that, and I'm able to take out the defense and I'm able to really just be with it and listen to him, then I can realign myself and I can understand that this behavior that I'm doing it's Audie in the back seat. It's that ego part of me. It's whatever that is that I learned along the way, and I'm able to realign it. Same thing with him. When we are able to check our egos and really listen to the other person, get that perception of what are they looking at, what's going on with them, then we're able to realign ourselves. And we just a couple of weeks ago we went on a trip on a yurt, and that was 4 days, just he and I. And I mean, we've been together for 25 years, and we had a fabulous time on that trip. We really enjoyed each other's company. And a lot of it is over all these years, we keep dumping whatever the thing is. When I see people getting into trouble, and I mean, I see this on a regular basis, one or the other does something, and then the people go into judgment. Well, how could they do that? I wouldn't have done that. And then they can't let it go. They're never going to change. And funny enough, some of the couples that I've worked with over these years, it's like the person does change and they change greatly. And the other person, just because they have it so set in their mind who that person is, they can't accept that the other one is changing. And so it doesn't move forward. And sometimes it literally stalemates and people move on. And the funny thing about it, when you're moving on and you don't check what your part in it is, then a lot of times they move on to another relationship and they recreate it. So when you have somebody and you have a commitment to them, like Nick and I, 25 years, we have been really, really good mirrors for each other. So when he's able to show me my unconscious behavior and I'm able to show him his unconscious behavior, it's not that I'm judging him. He's not judging me. He's just saying, hey, what's going on here doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for us, and it doesn't work for our family. And so there's not this guilting and there's shaming or, any of that stuff. It's more like, this is just something that we need to check and change. I like that. Check and change. So you check your ego in the back seat. What's going on here? And how do I realign it? And to be clear, every single time, for he tells me, and I'm able to realign it. The great news is he's always showing me, I don't have my notebook here today, what the unconscious is that I've had rolling. And I'm able to make it different. I'm able to do something different. And I end up being happier for it. So when somebody's being a mirror for you, if you can really step back and understand that this is something that can benefit you, because let's just say in the moment, I'm sorry, I'm slightly distracted. There was a spider crawling over here, and now it went all the way over there. I could see it up on the wall. We just had the exterminate. We have this like really good organic person, that this company that comes and they do you know, the bug stuff. And I guess that guy, it was so organic, he didn't get affected by it. Anyway, he's crawling nicely over there. See how easily I get distracted? At any rate, Nick and I, it's really been a blessing. And the funny thing is, years and years ago, when I was in the middle of my chaos, and I had to take my daughter to the therapist because she was a mess, and the therapist was like, she is a little bit of a mess, but you're a lot of a mess, and you need to shape up. I remembered clearly telling her in session one time that I really should marry a therapist. I don't even know why I said that, but that's what I did. And so it's really cool to have both of us be therapists, because it's like we share these tools with other couples. And when we use them in our own relationship, we don't get caught up in a long period of time of being stuck in a problem. We use the tools that we have and we work through it. I was able to call her at a point and let her know, hey, remember I said that to you? She probably didn't remember. And I was able to let her know that I did find love and I was able to, you know, be with this person who is doing really well in life with. So I just wanted to share that. What is Nick saying here? Close to perfect. So tonight is an interactive night. So if you have any questions, if there's anything that you want to comment on, I love talking with you guys. And it makes it fun for me to, have a back and forth conversation. So in talking about relationships, and by the way, do you see I cut my little hairs? I was looking at the other videos of me, and it's like I just like having a little something there, a little something, something here. So let me see my notes here. Okay. I can't stress enough that one of the number one things, if not the number one thing, when clients come in is communication. And it's really just wildly important. And I'm going to start with when we're communicating with ourselves. So last week I was telling you about that session that I had with Gina Ann, and it was like life transforming. She was being a mirror for me and showing me that I really didn't put myself in the highest. And funny enough, one of my daughters just told me today she's doing really well in a lot of areas. And I think she's going to get this new job as an executive assistant. And I was telling her, of course you'll get the job. You are like everything. You're like in the world of music, in the world of being responsible and being a great employee and maybe one day employer or self-employed. I mean, she's really responsible and she's extremely capable. And so I was saying, of course, I'm pretty sure you'll get the job. She's going to interview soon. And she looks at me and she goes, sometimes I just don't appreciate myself as much as I should. And I was like, I know, right? That's what I had going on. I literally didn't even know it because, of course, it's in the unconscious. It's like not something that even entered my mind until Gina Ann told me about it. So then when I see it in my daughter, it's like, oh, yeah, there it is. She was in my back seat from 0 to 8. So her talk to herself, the way she communicated with herself, a lot of it was she's looking at me. And this is what we do. We put other people here and we do what we do. And then none of it is wrong. None of it's bad. It just is what it is. But now that I have changed that program and I'm putting myself right there as the flippin' sun and putting other people in that space with me, it's been really interesting. Some of these things that I didn't even realize were a part of my life because of that belief system have been switching. And it's been very interesting to watch. I'm in some ways more motivated. In a lot of ways, I'm actually lighter and happier and more confident. So to sit here and do this show, because you know how much I love it, I'm actually liking it more. But again, it has never been my first thing. So once I understood what it was that she was sharing with me, what she was mirroring, and I was able to look at the conversations that I had been having with myself, I was able to realign myself. So I'm actually making even better choices with my health alone just because of it. So when you're talking to yourself, in my book, there's a title for that, and it's like talking to myself and feeling down. How much do we do that? I mean, seriously, I can't even express to you. I did it myself for the longest time, and then it switched a little, and it switched more and more and more. And I think it'll probably keep switching until the day I pass. But each time it switches, each time I level up in my consciousness, there's that stronger and stronger self satisfaction, empowerment. And so when you're catching yourself, talking to yourself, I mean, just for instance, they'll make a little mistake and they'll literally say, "Oh my God, I'm so stupid." And no, you're not stupid. You made a little moment. And when you then say, "I'm stupid," I know that one very well, then you're coming from a place of, "I'm stupid." And it's not that we're stupid, we just do stuff. It's just how life is. We have our moments, but then we have a tendency to judge ourselves in those moments and be like, "Ah, this is who I am." It's very interesting. I've been working with somebody and I worked with them yesterday. And it was the first time because when I'm working with my clients, I'm drawing diagrams for them. I'm drawing pictures as I'm talking so that they're understanding this is what's going on. And I use that car analogy to explain it. So in this particular situation, in my book on the second, in the game board, there's a picture of a car and it's going down the hill and it's rolling, and we get stuck in that victimization loop. We get stuck in the loop. So, like for instance, sometimes people will be they want to keep on the 101 of their freeway and own their intentions to be in love, to be successful, healthy, simply just being happy. But then something happens and they don't maybe do what they wanted to do, or they, I don't know, they have an unfortunate moment where they get laid off from their work. It could be one of a million things, or they could be in their mind going, "What if, I hadn't done it before? I don't know that I can do it again." You have to really listen to what's going on in your mind, but more importantly, what's going on in your feelings. The feelings are everything. So, like in this particular situation, and to be clear, we all do this. There'll be something that's going on, and we're starting to feel bad. We're feeling anxious, or worried, or stressed, or guilty. Shameful is huge. Resentful, remorseful, all of those kind of feelings. And if we don't check them, they start creating where we're going down the hill and we're circling in it. So we're either looking at whatever shit we did in the past, or unfortunately, what we're imagining might be the future. So either place, we're not being in the moment, we're not being in the choice point. And this is the most important moment. This is where God flows through. This is where we have our little quantum computer matching with this heart that talks to the intelligence of the universe. And in this moment, you are powerful. But what we do, we're in the future, not intentional, or we're in the past and feeling that guilt or shame or whatever that stuff is. So when you're talking to yourself, and you're catching yourself in this moment. It's like I had drawn that picture for her, and the way the loop looks, and I was explaining in this moment where you're down, where you're in the loop, when you can really get that, you stop yourself and you look at, is this even real? Or if it is where I am in this moment, instead of focusing on the problem or going into that guilt or shame, or, heaven forbid, continuing with whatever scenario, like for instance, in communication, the amount of people, all of us, who have a moment where they get angry with somebody and then they start rolling in it. And it's like, well, they did this and they did that, and I don't think they're going to change. And this is, the scenario. As long as you're there you are. I've had people that I've worked with, and this has been, I mean, it's like one of the highlights of my days or weeks or whatever, is when people realize in that moment they're able to step back and they're able to look at their own behavior. And huge, when they get it and they're able to look at the other person and really own the apology. I see it clearly, my part. And in the apology, they are saying, I'm not going to do this again. And they are heartfelt about it. That's one of the things that drags that car right back up to the top of the road. And that's how you keep on the path. And it is across the board. When people do that and then they continue to honor the commitment to changing whatever that behavior is, that's where we grow. That is extremely important. So it's like when I was showing this person that picture, I had drawn a line on either side of that moment. And I was explaining, as long as you're focused on the problem, as long as you're not being introspective and looking at you, you can't change the other person. And when we stay mad at the other person, when we stay, in any of the fear feelings with regard to the other person, there you are. And it's not a great place to be, because when we are in that anger, as I've told y'all many times, you're the only one that's struggling. You're the only one that's experiencing the anger within your own body. I think we have learned as a society that anger is powerful. And if I'm angry with you, you'll know. And it's like, no, your body knows. But the other person, it's not going to affect them. They've got their own experience going on. So when you're able to acknowledge what you're doing and you're able to see what it is that they're sharing with you, that's where you own your power to be back in your own choice point and not down here. You're literally saying, okay, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm moving on from this. And what's the intention in moving forward? I promise you, if next time you get into a altercation with anybody, if you step back and you look at, what am I doing here? And especially if it's somebody with a long relationship with you, if you have the capacity, which you do, if you are able to do a timeline, and in that timeline, I've had couples get back together for this stuff. When you're looking at the timeline, you're understanding your part and you're understanding those things that maybe your partner was saying, and it's like, I don't want to hear you, I don't want to go there. When you're able to recognize your stuff and you're learning from it, you're growing from it, and you're changing that program, changing that belief, changing that habit, changing whatever that is, you're winning. But every time that you stay angry with the other person, every time that you're affected by the other person, you're acting like the moon, not the flippin' sun, and you're in the back seat of their car and you're not driving. That a lot of times it's there's two kids in the back seat and neither one of them's driving, and that's when these challenges with relationships happen. I was saying something to one of my clients, I think it was yesterday, and I was saying that it was something about he's in a relationship and they're having this moment, and funny enough, I think they're on the other side of it today. It's a big deal. They both understood what was going on with them, and I literally was texting both of them, kudos. Working through these kind of things, that's where you get to be the greatness of you, and you're able to be the greatness in a family. At any rate, I was saying every time that he was doing whatever he was doing, it doesn't even matter that he was in the back seat, not driving in the front seat with him. And then there's a point of it where sometimes we're in the back seat and we're, playing solitaire, so you really have to be clear on what your conversation is with yourself, what it is you're owning for yourself in your relationship with you, but how are you owning it with other people? I see Cheryl Vassar's in the house, and John is in the house too. Nice to see both of you here with me. Anyway, That's communicating with ourselves and then communicating with other people. I have no idea what time it is. I got to take a peek. Ah, we've got good timing going on here. Then there is communication with family. That one's always interesting because these are the people that we have grown up with. These are the people that have known us for all of our lives. These are the people that we have been in habits with. And the amount of defense that happens in a family can be a lot. Especially I had something recently with someone. They were looking to see what kind of fun videos we could make. And I was saying that it would be fun to have a video that you do where it is a kid talking with a parent, and the parent is wearing football gear. And the kid saying, "You never listen to me." And the parent in the football gear is like, "Yes, I do." And they just have a whole little scenario going on there. Just in relationships with families, the dynamic between kids and parents, especially in today's age, it's really for so many reasons. And one of them is exactly right here, being in screens. For parents right now, it is a challenging time. And like I was telling one of my parents, it's like how kids used to be at 13, they're now doing things at 10. And it's a lot to maneuver conversations in family because these kids are like pretty mature, but not at a very young age. And part of it is because they're learning so many things at a younger age that, create, let's just say, a strong conversation with them. They want to be independent. They want to really run things as they want to run it. And they're not getting, you're still a kid and you literally the kid in the back seat and I'm driving and, I have to keep you safe. I have to keep you healthy. I have to keep you all these things. So the parent wants to lay down the law and these kids are just like not having it. So there is this whole conversation with family and with being a parent and an adult. So whether you're the kid in the family, which, you can be a kid and be, you're 30 and your mother is 50, you're still going to be the child in the relationship. But as you're being the kid in the relationship, you have to find a new way to be with the parent. And if you're the parent, I can I can use my mother as an example here for all of this. My mother, when I was growing up, she was one of those parents where she was like, "This is how you're doing it. This is what's happening." So there was a lot of times where I would just go off and do it how I wanted to do it, and then I would get myself into mischief. And over the years, I really became very independent and not as much a part of her life. And she always had this belief about me, and she loved me, but it was her belief. So in the conversation with her, there was always this part of it where she had her perception and I had mine. And over the years, especially when I became a practitioner and I started studying all of the stuff with the mind, with hypnotherapy and all the science, I really changed a lot of who I was. But at that point, I'd already moved away from her and I'm living here in Los Angeles and she's still back in Florida. And so we would talk on the phone and stuff, but we weren't, seeing each other a lot. So in the conversation with her, as she's exiting, because I had to go and be with her at the hospital as she was passing, it was very interesting to be the child, to be the daughter, and to show her in a very constructive way who I am. And that is one of those stories that I will tell clients sometimes because parents don't know who you are until they do, until you're able to show them. And if we keep as a child being in that conversation with our parent where they believe whatever they believe and we want to battle them, then nobody's learning from it. But when as a child or you're the adult child, whenever you're at in the range of your life, there's always that ability to rise above that dynamic with a parent and show them, be a mirror for them. This is who I am. So when you're in the battle of things, we can't show them because everybody's in the battle. But when you're rising above it and you're being that flippin' sun version of you, then you're able to show them and be that mirror. So my mother, as she's about to exit, she was finally able to see me because I was able to show her, this is who I am. And she had that moment. It was the first time in my life. It was like, wow, you're intelligent, you're this, you're that, you're all these things. So when you are in that conversation, whether it's a parent and a child, whether it's a brother and a sister, whoever it is that you're in these relationships with, if you want to change the relationship, you have to be what you want to change it to and keep showing them. And when they want to, you know, treat you like you had been treated in your past, whatever that is, there's a part of it where you keep in compassion and you keep showing them, this is who I am. This is how I want to be treated. This is how I want our relationship to be. And you're doing it in a loving way, a respectful way. And you're honoring their perception has always been whatever it's been. You're offering them in your actions and who you are being a new perception of you. And to be clear, sometimes it takes a minute. People have been in relationships with family for a very long time, and it usually doesn't change overnight. But when you're constructively communicating with them, then it changes things. I have my cat like just about to jump into my lap down here, Mr. Jasper Kitty. So if you have any questions about all this, ask me. I feel like I'm definitely rattling on here, but I want you to really be clear. I have watched so many relationships grow and expand, and these are the ways that we do it. You can't grow a relationship in anger. You just can't, but you can grow a relationship in understanding, in compassion. And when you're coming at it by looking at third button perception, what's my, whoa, my cat. What's my perception? Let me see if it's lined up. Silly cat. All right, hold on. That's funny. All right. Well, I don't even know what I was saying. He tripped on the cord. uh, whatever I was saying, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. That was funny. He's a good cat. Anyway, this thing with families, the other part of it to remember when you're looking at making things better, sometimes with family, it's like there are things and it's hard to come back from. Sometimes there are mental health issues. Sometimes there are things that are just maybe it's not a healthy environment. You got to make that okay too. But when you're making that okay and you're stepping back from it, it's important that you're stepping back again with compassion for yourself, compassion for the other person, and you're letting go of the anger, the resentment, the hate, whatever that thing is. Again, we're in an interesting moment in time right now. And it's very important for all of us to kind of open up and let these things out of the heart and not be holding on to whatever those things are in relationships with other people. So you either authentically let it go and you let the person go, or you find a way to work through it with integrity. And I get it that that's a big deal to do. So it's always your choice in how you're going to do that. But as we're in this moment in time, I've told you guys, and I literally had somebody I was talking with yesterday about this. You know, we're energetic beings. And this person was like, I really want to connect. You know, I want to connect. I want to have that feeling that you're talking about. I want to be connected with that higher part of me, and I just don't feel it. If you want to be in that connection, there's ways to do it. And one of them is you have to keep letting go of those feelings that cause a sense of separation. It's really hard to be connected in source and be really angry or bitter or any of those kind of feelings. It's like I've told somebody before, I'm going to tell this story again because it's just such an important thing to understand. As much as you all can see me right now and there's no cords attached and it's all live and it's now live on all these different avenues, we're all connected in the ethers as well as connected in this conversation. And so the example is I had a client one time, many clients actually. I used to work at a rehab. It was like right on the ocean. And I would have the clients and I would be on the edge of the cliff with them and we're looking out over the ocean. And I would tell them that ocean, I want you to get it, that it represents like the universe. It represents the all, the everything. And this energy that is all things everywhere. And we are all like drops of water in that ocean. And that ocean is just being its power. It's going back and forth. It's just being in its, everything. And so, as much as we are like drops of water in the ocean, and the ocean is us, and we're the ocean, sometimes we get a layer of oil around us, and that oil, it's like a sense of separation to that. And so when you're continuing to stay angry, continuing to stay bitter, continuing to focus on the problems, all those things that I was just talking about, it doesn't serve you. It makes it hard to co create. It makes it hard to be in that bliss that offers. Because I'm telling you, when you are in the moments of that, it is bliss and we're creative. So as long as you're holding on to something, you're being in the back seat and you're not being the adult in the middle. The adult is the conduit between the three. It's like we're the navigator in the adult seat. But if we're in the back, it doesn't get through and we don't feel that connection. So my client, she was like, how do I feel that? It's like, if you don't know it, then it's like, and I remember I told her clearly, I said, you know what? I have been right where you are, especially when I met Nick. It's like, I'm working on being a practitioner here, and I just am not feeling that. I'm not getting it. And I told her, because it's super important, this is how we be the royalty on the planet, how we be the royalty in the universe. We are very blessed to do that, to be holding ourselves in the highest and all that around us. And I mean around us. So I told her that for me, it was a process, and that if I'd had me teaching me, having gone through all of this, it wouldn't have taken me 10 years. But I remember clearly when it started, where I started owning that ability to tap in and to have that conversation, that communication, the biggest communication we have. So there's that communication with ourselves, there's a communication with friends, family, business, everything. But the greatest connection, the greatest communication is with that higher part of us. So I told her how I learned to develop it was one day I went in my backyard, and I'll never forget this, making my eyes a little watery remembering it. I went in the backyard and I looked up at the universe and I was like, I just said yes. My communication with the universe was one word, and that word was yes. I want to do this. I want to know you better. I want to feel this. I want to experience. I want to co create in this. And I just said yes. And the feeling that I had in that yes was a heart wide open. So when you're holding on to anger, bitterness, all those things, it's not a wide open heart. It's a heart that's a little bit shut down. So when you're doing this, there's a part of it where I'm trusting to give my heart there. That's really important. This, that communication with yourself, that communication with that higher part of you, you can always trust it and you can always have faith in it. That's one of the cool things about having that kind of a connection, having that spiritual practice, having that awareness and understanding, and being able to rest in that. I want to say love, but it's bigger than love. So rest in that awareness that I am divinely guided, that this universe loves me. The amount of times that I've said lately, the universe just loves me because I got a little problem that I get to work out and I get to grow. But the universe also loves me in blessing me with certain things in my life now. So because my heart is open, because I'm not holding on to bitterness or anger or any of those things, I am co-creating in that intelligent universe. So when you're having that communication with yourself, there's things that you look at. What am I saying to myself? What am I believing about myself? Be aware, pay attention, and really take the time to be with your feelings around you. That is probably one of the biggest things in life. Because when we're coming from the fullness of ourselves, when we're having that strong conversation with ourselves, when we're having that really strong conversation with our higher self, it makes all these relationships better. It makes everything better. So it's really important to look at all of that. So your homework for this week is to pay attention. How are you talking about yourself? How are you connecting with that higher part of you? Do you take that time to just be with spirit? However that looks for you, it can look a lot of different ways. But when you practice it on a regular basis, then you're going to start experiencing life different. And I think I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. We're in a new moment in time right now. And I think we've shifted some timelines. And there is an ability for all of us to really connect easier. The veil is getting thin, and we are very, very creative right now. So as you're moving forward, look at the different conversations that you're having. So I'll give you an example. One conversation is about politics. If you're finding yourself in a conversation with other people and you're getting angry about politics, check yourself. Is it worth that conversation? You're not going to change anybody else's mind. And is it worth it? You know, in the scheme of things, I think a lot of people get angry because they're looking at one side and not the other. So if you're angry with somebody and you're looking at one side, take a look at what they're looking at, look at their perception, get an awareness of where they're coming from. When I see that people are getting angry with each other, a lot of the time they're angry because the other person doesn't see what they want them to see. And so the other person's like, well, you're not seeing what I want you to see. So when we are able to step back and look authentically at the other person's perception, maybe there's something to learn there. You know, there's a possibility. But when we're on the defense about it and when we make the other person wrong and we haven't even looked at what they're talking about, that's where anger and bitterness come in. And that's where we as a world become divided. So in this moment, if you're not being there to hear the other person, if hearing the other person has you feeling angry, check yourself. What am I actually angry about? What does this mean? What do I think is going to happen? Am I in my timeline now and I'm looking at a problem? Am I looking at a possibility that I don't know is to be true? So when you're doing any of this conversation and you're able to check yourself in what's going on, then we can come from a place of looking at it with more logic, with more reason, deduction, and we're able to make those intentional choices. But if you're just getting angry and I don't want to hear what you're doing, I don't want to hear what that is, regardless, whether it's political, about health, about school, about finances, about any of our systems that we have going on, it's important to get a full picture. And right now, it's wildly important because there is a lot of discrepancy in the pictures. So when you're able to step back and look at someone else's perception and not make it wrong or bad, it's just what they're doing, it's just what they see. Is there something to learn from this? Is there something that I can realign myself with? Or can I just have compassion for the other person because they're, you know, not on the right page, whatever that looks like. So when you're able to do that, you're not climbing in the back seat with them. You're staying in the front seat of your car and you're going, all right, well, I'm looking for a world where the best and highest for all of humanity is. And that's where I'm driving. So I'm looking at any of the things that are going on, and I'm just going to own the lane that has that attached to that. And if somebody's in a lane and they're focused on a problem or they want something that is not going to be the best for all humanity, I'm not going to put my attention on it. I'm not going to put my energy on it. I'm not going to get angry about it, frustrated. That's their stuff, not mine. I'm going to stay in my lane and I'm going to hold that space for the best and highest for all humanity. Then my heart is open and I am connecting and I stay in love. I stay in light. So as we're going through this moment right now, and it's coming up on, election time, be open-minded, really pay attention to conversations and stay out of the back seat. Nobody wins back there. If you haven't noticed, when people are being the Bickersons, it's not like somebody says, you know what, you need to da da da. And the other person's like, well, yeah, you're right. It usually doesn't happen like that. It usually turns into da, 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 and then it turns into a battle, or it turns into, instead of people battling, they go into the fight or freeze if they're not in the fight. So as long as you're in any of those things, you're in that wildly unconscious part of your brain. My client yesterday called it the reptilian brain. And in that place, nobody wins. So in order for us all to move forward, we have to come together as a collective in one way, shape, or form to make things happen. So in all of it, if you can just look at and keep focused on the best and highest for happening for all humanity and own your lane and really drive your car with intention, be that person that holds that space, the more of us that do that, the more of us that stay out of our fear, that false evidence appearing real, then we can collectively create that world that's going to be where the best and highest is happening for all humanity. It's funny, there's all this information around astrology and there's been many prophets, different people that have all said that we are moving into a really, really good time in the world, but we have to get through this hiccup first. So how we get through the hiccup, in my humble opinion, is by doing things like this. Because if we're divided, if we're fighting amongst ourselves, then we can't do what literally needs to happen for that to take place. And when we're in fear, when we're in that anger, rage, all of those different feelings and focused on the problem, there's going to be a lot more of that. And we're not all going to be connected in the flow of the ocean. So it's super important to get that. Right. You have to stop fearing that the wrong candidate will be elected. The people are getting elected that are going to create a United States and a united world where the best and highest is happening for all of humanity. And then when you're holding it in the highest, I've got another 5 minutes here. We're going to do something special. So when you're holding it in the highest, that means you're literally holding that feeling of love, that feeling of light. You know, when I pray, and I'm going to in a second here, it's not a lot about the words. The words are the direction, but the feeling is that power, the feeling attached to the thoughts. That's where everything goes. And the thoughts are just, they don't have to be so defined. They can just be this beautiful picture of the world in love, the world in light, the world in compassion for each other, you know, the world being cooperative for each other. So let's pray. I want you to hold this with me, okay? Let's all just take a deep breath. See, even in the breath, I'm feeling that ocean. I'm feeling that love. I'm feeling that connection to that highest part of me. And as I'm feeling it, it's like all the cells in my body are turning on, and I am that I am. So I'm recognizing this energy that flows in and as and through all of us. That is so just not describable, but just intensely beautiful. And just take a minute and breathe that in. Just allow yourself to be, if you want to just say, breathing in love and breathing in light, and recognize that we are connected to all of this. So even in this breath, in this moment, I'm connected to you, connected to God, I'm connected to source, all of it. So in this connection that we're all in, we just breathe in that love. And we know that divine right action is taking place for humanity, that there is this moment that is happening where we are joining together in that awareness that all needs are met and that there is no need for anything other than cooperation, collaboration, co-creating in the highest with and for each other. We all love each other, unless, of course, you're running a program or you've been manipulated or something like that. Most of us just want to live peacefully. Most of us want to live in that love. Most of us, the majority of us, want to live in that light. So you connect with all these people that are holding that are being that are continuing to let go and let go and let go of all these things that no longer serve us. All that stuff that creates that oil of separation doesn't need to happen anymore. We get to be connected. We get to co-create. I am so grateful for this feeling, for this love, for this light, for this picture, for the future, this timeline that we're all on, that we are being that grand, highest version of ourselves, supporting each other in that beautiful picture. And we're letting go of the anger. We're letting go of all that stuff that really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And in that letting go and being in this appreciation, we just know that God is winning, that love wins, light wins. It's already won. So we step into that timeline and be in deep appreciation for this shift in humanity. Deep, deep appreciation. So in this moment, this is already planted. The seeds are sown, and we're stepping into it. We're driving into it. And we allow that to be. And so it is. Amen. I don't know why my eyes water, but they do. So Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for praying with me. Continue to hold that in the highest. And I will be back again next week on Wednesday because I don't have a hot date next week. And I will look forward to seeing you all then. Much love to you. Take care. Bye for now. I'm trying to end this video.